Hello and welcome to another edition of MHQ's Foundation 101 webcast, where today I'm joined again by the excellent Kat Zagati. Kat, good morning.
Good morning, Ian.
And today is part 2 of our marathon touching on digital assets in combination with Foundation. Last week, we talked about the specificity and risk of this asset class. And this week, what we are going to look into is the same assets, but from the position of the council members.
Yes. So just to remind you what we discussed last week, Jan. So we discussed the challenges associated with digital assets and the benefits that foundations can offer to investors, such as the assets being the sole property of the foundation, the distinct personality between the founder and the foundation, the protection against third-party attacks like creditors, divorce, or probate and succession procedures, the foundation being better suited than trusts to deal with volatile investments, and the facility that the founder has to be directly involved in the management of the foundation's assets. And as you said, today we will be looking at the risks of investing into digital assets, specifically from the council members and their responsibilities perspective. So my first question to you, Ian. Digital assets are volatile in nature, as we know. Volatility means risk of loss. Are the council members at risk of being found responsible for losses?
So put shortly, the answer is yes. While they are not strictly bound by duties to preserve or enhance the value of assets settled onto the foundation, this is not like a trustee because the foundation does not owe fiduciary duties to the beneficiaries per se. The council member cannot be exonerated in the performance of the duties for anything that might constitute gross negligence. So it's better to pay attention, and it is key that one educates himself and understand what the clients are talking about. I mean, as with any asset classes, fulfilling your duties will be challenging if you don't know what you're talking about. So without at least a basic grasp of digital assets, the technology features, the pitfalls, it will be challenging.
Okay. And could one simply avoid higher risk asset classes, for instance?
It's not that easy. So simply refusing to allow investment of a considered slice of a portfolio into an asset class with, let's say, a higher volatility, but highly positive growth potential is, to me, not the answer. And it can also be contradictory to the foundation's objective, which is to enhance the foundation's assets over time. So what the founders and beneficiary may be keen to have exposure to this asset class, it is important that the council are able to follow. So the issue here is it's probably only a matter of time before professional fiduciaries simply have to get comfortable with crypto or at least knowledgeable about it. So it's better to start now.
Okay. And can the potential liability of council members be managed?
So there's a number of tools that you can look at to manage, I would say, risk, both from an investment potential, but also from a liability standpoint as a professional council member. So what you could do already is narrow down the scope of what the council duties would be in the bylaws. So very simple, you can draft the bylaws to fit that purpose. Operationally, what you may want to look at is a mixed council. So a council that would be composed, let's say, of the client, of a representative, or of an advisor of the client, alongside the professional fiduciaries. In that case, it will enable the said professional fiduciaries to observe the action from a slightly more remote position and thereby be a little bit less engaged responsibility-wise. The use of the reserved powers, particularly the power to direct investment strategy, allows the founders to proactively lead and implement the investment strategies. That's another way for a council to actually delegate that risk and mitigate that risk. And it is also possible to set out in rather general terms what the purpose of the foundation is and what the investment parameters are. So if the bylaws or condition attached to bylaws or settlement of funds onto the foundation, you can, for example, state that all part of the funds must be deployed within certain asset classes, real estate, private equity, but also crypto. That can protect the council members from criticism for failing to overstep those boundaries. Finally, where the class of beneficiaries is well-informed and supportive, think next gen here, substantial comfort can be derived from the old age and cost-effective indemnities and releases from these parties.
Very clear. Can you share any other best practice tips with us?
So let's look at a couple here. So for starters, when you talk about preserving, protecting the value of foundation assets, the core obligation is not to lose the assets. Sounds easy, but in this context, you need to look at custody. So custody is a technologically specialized task, so it's better to ensure that an institutional grade custodian is retained and instructed for the storage of these digital assets. So that would be a first a tip: choose your custodian wisely. Then understand where the asset comes from, the provenance of the asset before authorizing any acquisition or transfer. One of the features of underpinning Bitcoin and many other digital assets is that their entire ownership history, since the coin was mined, can be viewed on the blockchain if one knows how that is. So that enables you to actually check the provenance or instruct a professional to check that for you through some sort of forensic audit. Finally, and I mean, that goes without saying for any investments, diversify. Absent the special protection mentioned at the top, digital assets should not make up more than a prudent percentage of an overall portfolio, taking into account the general principles of modern portfolio theory, which every professional qualified investment advisor should be familiar with and help a family implement.
Thank you. To conclude, do you have any final comments to share with us?
Well, I touched on it slightly earlier, and by discussing in the industry, I think we need to do a better job as an industry in educating ourselves. Given the growing relevance of digital assets and other blockchain technology, to me, it is impossible today to ignore the growing importance, whether in technological or investment terms, of digital assets as a standalone investment class. So in this context, knowledge is absolutely key to avoid pitfalls. So get educated, because burying one's hand in the sand will not be possible forever.
Good. Thank you very much, Jan.
Thank you very much, and talk to you probably next week, where we will talk, I think, a single family office by popular demand. So talk to you next week. Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
week ahead.
Good day.